Welcome to the hottest real estate topics on the planet, keeping you up to date with all the creative ways to buy and sell real estate without bank qualifying, so anyone can build real income starting today. Here is another great show with Dealmaker Bill and Pete the Rookie.
All right, here we are at another episode of Flipping Houses for Rookies. Good morning, Peter.
Morning, Bill. Hello, everybody.
Here we go. Another time, another place, another topic.
Yeah, here it is.
Episode number 379. The title of today's episode is Rookie Creative Real Estate Breakthrough on Giving Sellers Extraordinary Value. And here's the description of today's podcast. Is there actually a secret on catapulting any real estate seller's piqued interest while building extraordinary value so they do the deal with you? I'm talking about an opportunity that ignites desire instantly. How do you get the seller to stop and think differently while assessing the true worth of what you can do for them? And I'm not talking about the average rundown of sales speak either. What I am talking about is true core value building that sellers can't resist. So if you are ready to be treated to some of the most hidden underground creative real estate secrets for making gargantuan deals and thinking outside of the box that lead to remarkable outcome, this is a must listen to for your creative real estate tool belt. Why not start generating extraordinary opportunities by listening to human insights that transform most rookies into pro? Don't miss the chance to elevate your approach to real estate and making a lasting impact on your sellers. It sounds interesting, doesn't it?
What does that all mean?
Yeah, so before I start, I would just like to say, because I didn't write this down and I'll forget to say it if I don't say it while I'm thinking about it. Kiyosaki years ago gave me a very, very valuable lesson in the cash flow quadrant. Now, I've probably not read those books in probably 15 years, maybe more. So it's all these years later, and I'm going to tell you what I remember, the impression I got. Right? The impression is you don't need a lot of money to be wealthy. So his thought process was, if you needed $4,000 a month to live, you need assets that would pay you, say, $5,000 or $6,000, and you were wealthy. The reason why is because those assets would not take a lot of your time. So right. his thought process was less time, more money. Right. So if you had assets like with my real estate, I spend on most months 3 to 5 hours a month, if that, working on my real estate. And it allows me to do what I want to do the rest of the month. Right? So I just would like to preface this podcast with that. So it's not that you got to be tricky or you have to be special, like they say, silver-tongued devil. It's not salesmanship. It's the connection with your seller and the size of the deal that matters. Because you could do less deals and still make a lot of money if they're the right deals and if you're really connected with the seller.
Yep.
So you know that when you're with me, that a lot of my sellers become friends with me later on. Right? It's more than just a sale for me. Right? So that's the preface of today's podcast. And I start with that because if you learn that it's human instinct more than anything else. There's no special tricks. There's no magic wand. There's no hypnotism. There's no, none of that in this process. It's really caring about the seller and really showing them the value that you bring to the table elegantly. And that's what we're going to talk about today.
Sounds good.
Okay, so let's go to the housekeeping section real quick. So just make sure if you're listening to us, you subscribe to wherever you're listening or watching us. Make sure you leave us a review. If you need any help at all, you can go to flippinghouses4rookies.com. There's free tools there. There's up to almost, I think, 26 or 28 free tools there that you can use. There's free courses, forms, all kinds of stuff under the free stuff. If you would like to speak to Peter and I, you can go to that page, and on the top right hand side it's support. Those tickets come right to me. I'm not as good with checking those support tickets as I used to be, but I do go there and check them. And the other thing is if you want to be part of our group, you can go on WhatsApp Messenger. The group is called Let's Talk Real Estate, and you can be part of that group too. And last thing is in the description of today's podcast, you will find a link there. It is something I've not done before. We offer it at Creative REI Reply, which is the software company that Sean, my other partner, and I developed, and David and Susan. So it's something that we did over there. I've never offered it for Flipping Houses for Rookies, and it's going to help you with exactly what we're going to talk about today. But I'll talk about that at the end of the podcast when you've heard what I had to say and you understand it better. Okay. So
Yep.
Pete, I would like to start today off with the core mantra of getting leads these days.
Yeah. I like when you say these days.
Yeah.
Because things shift a little bit, don't they?
Yeah. The guided principle in today's economy is there are no rules.
Oh, crap. Thanks.
There are no rules.
Okay.
Right? And as humans, we have an astonishing ability that it seems other animals do not develop or have not developed yet. We can use mental symbols called words, and we can modify those symbols and change their relationship to other symbols and concepts in our minds. AKA, we can develop mental image pictures because, like I've been talking about forever, but especially recently, like words are important, right? Words, the meaning of words are the way you think, and the way you think is how you act or apply.
Sure.
So if you got the words wrong, then your thinking is going to be wrong, and your application is going to be incorrect, and you're not even going to know it.
That is extremely and frighteningly true.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we see weird things happening in the world today, and you would never believe it, but whether it's students acting weird or people acting weird, they really don't understand what they're talking about.
Right.
They absolutely don't understand.
So
what these things
please stick with me for a couple minutes. I know I'm kind of like doing a little bit something weird here, but I promise you in just a couple of minutes I'm going to swing this around and show you why this is so crucial, because it is crucial. Okay?
Yep.
So this means if you define a word, right, you're doing something mysterious and powerful. You're modifying the relationship between things in your mind and how things could be or should be. You're now making the modified meaning relate to something. Right? Unfortunately, most of us get definitions of words intuitively, which means that we infer. Infer means we guess. We infer the definitions of words through their use in conversation with others. But we don't know if those others actually are using the words correctly.
Yeah, and even if they are, I've noticed as an educator, people get them like as an example. They hear one use of something and think that's it. That's just maybe a tiny slice of what it might mean and might not be what it means in today's conversation.
I've been looking up words lately. I always look up words, but I was looking up words lately. And the little ones, like the word of, will have 25 definitions.
Yep, I saw 17. You found 25.
Yeah,
boy, oh boy.
yeah. Right?
Yeah.
So,
That's right.
like you said, there's multiple. Anyways,
Yeah.
we're not here to do this. I want to relate this. So,
It's important. That's useful.
Which tells me, and this is the punchline, which is kind of a kick in the gut, which tells me most of us carry around and use general definitions rather than precise definitions.
Mm-hmm.
And these present a big opportunity for us. Because most people use general definitions
Yeah.
and not the precise ones, and that's a huge opportunity for us.
Interesting.
See, more precise thinking creates more precise analysis.
Yeah.
More precise thinking creates better estimation. More precise thinking creates better prediction. More precise thinking creates better explanations.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
More precise thinking makes decision making.
Yep.
Do you see how this is?
Oh yeah.
So why do I start the podcast off with this? Start it off this way.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's about the word opportunity. But before I go any further, most people that describe me, other than my family, that listen to my podcast or my training always tell me, and you know this because you've heard this at our seminars and when we're around people, is I make things simple.
Right.
And I explain things. And that the reason why is because I'm doing to my listeners, or the listeners right now, what I'm asking them to start doing. I make it so it's understandable. I'm changing those mental image pictures so they're clearer. I'm not just saying, oh, we're going to sign an option. Right? I explain because the word option has multiple definitions. Like Pete, one of the options you have is to go to a Chinese restaurant tonight instead of an Italian restaurant.
Yeah, send me a memorandum on that.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So it's like, there's specialized definitions, and there's, it's not just a general. And so I take the time to make sure I explain these because it paints clearer mental image pictures in the minds of my recipients.
Absolutely. I mean, as an educator, I say that all the time. It's just a loose understanding. Of course, you can test this on yourself or other people. Ask yourself what it means, and if you can't explain it in detail, go check it out.
Right. So I had this big realization not too long ago, maybe a few weeks ago. Maybe I don't know about the time. Maybe a month ago, three weeks ago, whatever. But what is real estate? What is creative real estate? Why do we want to do creative real estate? And I came up with an answer because I kept asking myself, why do so many people want to do real estate?
Yep.
And my answer before is because where else can you go, work once, and get paid multiple times?
True.
Right? But I came up with a simpler answer. Real estate is the hope of opportunity. It's so proven that people that want to learn real estate are hoping they can usually get out of the situation they're in and change it. So it's like a bridge of hope to opportunity. So it made me wonder, so what is opportunity? And how do we find it? Right? So first, I thought we should talk about what is opportunity.
Okay.
So there's a bunch of ways I could do this, and I decided not to elaborate on this because there's many other things I want to talk about today. But for the simplistic matter of today's episode, I want to make a clear definition of what I'm talking about with opportunity in this podcast. What I'm talking about is the simplest way to describe opportunity is value. Opportunity is actually value. Now, there's other definitions and there's other ways to use it, but in this particular thing, so what you're looking for in real estate is you're looking for the value of real estate to change your life.
That's right.
It's valuable to you because it's a hope of you not creating your current income, however you do that, whether that's a boss or a job or your business or whatever. And the reason why your current income is a problem is it's probably too low and you have aspirations to make it higher, which is common sense. But the biggest thing is your time. The amount of time it takes you to create your current income.
Right.
So it's not so much the income that's the problem, it's the time that's the problem. So that means the way real estate would be valuable to you is if it gave you time back. See, it's not really the money, it's the time. I'm a little profound here, but I'm gonna show you. So I'm going to show you why this is important in a couple minutes here.
Okay.
But does that make sense?
Yes, because people work their 40 hours or 50 hours a week and they make a certain amount of money. If they want more money, they go, crap, I can't work anymore. Well, first, they're not going to work more than that unless somebody gives them permission. And then they don't want to because they're tired. They want to go home.
Right.
So how do you make more money in less time? So we think, real estate. Like it's an opportunity
but that's
for
what
more
my
value,
point is
more
it's
value
not,
in less time.
It's not the money. It's not the money.
It's
not the money. One of the realizations I had a long time ago, a year ago maybe, was why do I want money?
Right.
Why am I obsessed with making all this money? Because my numbers are not small. You know that. They're not big compared to other people, but they're not small. Right. So I keep thinking to myself, what's the importance of making $1 million a year?
Yeah.
And it took me a while to find that answer. And the answer was, after many conversations with myself, well, actually, it's to support my lifestyle. And I choose what my lifestyle is. Like right now, I'm on a retreat. Right. I mean, my wife and I packed our car thinking we were going to Florida for 3.5 weeks, and decided we're staying for 7 months. And I can do that. Now, I'm not saying that it doesn't hit my savings account. I'm not saying, but I paid for it. We are paying for it. It's not just me. My wife's helping me.
Yeah. We
are paying for it, and I have the ability to do that. So how valuable is that? So
Absolutely.
the money is all about lifestyle. It's funding your intentions, what you want to do in life. Like maybe you have a kid that's got a college debt and they're struggling and you want to help them. Yep. Maybe your mom's in a convalescent home and you want to pay for your mom, or I don't know. There's maybe you want a new car. Maybe your furnace just broke. Maybe I don't know. There's a reason. That reason is value. It's valuable to you.
Right. Each person has their own.
Right.
Their own vision, and then how you get there.
So now let's flip this around. So the way you get opportunity is you must build and create value for somebody else. Right? So if you create value for somebody else, what are they going to do?
Well, they'll exchange value back to you.
Right. So there's your opportunity. They're going to give you your opportunity. Right? Now, I'm not going to go into this because I got to tell you, I could do a multiple day seminar on this. But I had put in one of the podcasts before, you can't, actually, I'm not going to talk about that. What do you think has everything to do with how this works? And I have done my own study by observation on thinking, and I am 1,000% convinced that thinking, first of all, is not what it's cracked up to be. Because thinking is usually stuff that you had trouble with in the past and couldn't succeed with, so your mind stores it to tell you not to do it again. Right? Like if you fell off a bicycle and scraped your knee, your mind's going to tell you bicycles are bad.
Yeah.
But more importantly, what I found is people are too confused about their thinking because their environment invades their thinking and it destroys their intentions. And I know this because when I coach people, it's like I go week to week and they're like, oh man, I had a rough week. You know, I was at work and and I never did real estate.
Yeah.
Right? So that's important. So anyways, we got off the topic there. So how do we do this? To create this value, right? Or better yet, how have I done it for millions of dollars worth of real estate? Right? See, when I talk to sellers, I use my words carefully, and you know that.
Yeah.
Right? It's like too many times I will give somebody a script and they'll say, well, that's not the way I speak. I don't talk like Bill does. And they'll change the words. And what happens is they disrespect the fact that I've used that script on hundreds, if not thousands of people to get that exact wording. There's a lot of research in those words, not in how to say it, but the responses. Because what most people are confused about when they're talking to sellers is it's not the questions that is vital, it's the responses. And unfortunately, too many rookies are stuck on what do I say. So when the other person is speaking, in other words, telling them what so in other words, the question provoked a response, right? And they're too busy wondering what to say next, and they miss the response.
You know, when you first said that, because I've heard you say that before, but the first time it was like, what does he mean, the response? But when people respond to you, they're telling you what's going on. They might be telling you it's clues to what they need or what's valuable to them, right? So when they talk,
well, they're telling you how to do the deal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and if we're not listening to that, we miss the boat on like, oh, wait a minute, you want? Because I've heard you also say when you think you've got what the person's looking for, you clarify it with them, like, wait a minute, and you just check what they said to make sure that's what's going on, and then. It's like you throw a fishing rod in the water and they pull on it. Instead of you yanking back, you go, what should I throw in the water next? Right. They just bit on the bait. Talk to them. There it is in front of you. But you're too thinking about what else. So it made sense after I had to chew it over a little bit. But of course, the response is the window to their soul and their value and all that stuff.
But here's the thing. The best thing you could do, Dan Kennedy coined this phrase, but he's like, have the conversation they're already having in their head.
Right.
Right. So if my wife decides that she wants to buy a car, and she saw some car, we'll say it's a Ford Mustang.
Okay.
Should I bring her to a Chrysler dealership? I mean, I can if I'm going to try to change her mind.
Only if you want a world of trouble, buddy.
So, if you go back to a couple podcasts ago, we talked a lot about, because we've been kind of in this little series, right? We talked a lot about pre-qualifying. So that's the first magic of making sure that you build a lot of value, is you talk to somebody that wants to talk to you, that you can help them.
Yeah.
So in creative real estate, the way we do that with our scripts is we ask, well, the only way that I can give you blah for your house, $200,000 for your house, is if I make monthly payments, right? Well, actually, the only way I can give you $200,000 in as-is condition, right, is to make monthly payments without any landlord obligations. Can we talk about that?
You know what? In your script, I've heard you say it both ways, but the one you wrote down was the best way I can do that.
Yeah.
Because I think that sounds better. It's really the best way, not the only way. The only sounds like you can. When you say best, it sounds awesome to me.
I'm not
right?
on the phone these days. So yeah, whatever I wrote is because
it's
you
really,
have to
really
realize
good.
The reason why I came up with that is because that's how I did it with a lot of people and got a lot of results, and that's how I started conversations. So the pre-qualifying makes a difference. So now you know, okay, well, they're need or greed. So they're either, they're willing to talk about payments, which is the need side, and the greed is, well, no, I don't want any payments.
Yeah.
I just want all my money.
Yeah.
I want a cash deal.
Yeah.
And up until about 3 months ago, we used to hang up on those people. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But then we figured out how to do the Grand Slam offer.
Uh-huh.
And that's exactly what I put into the chat, into the description, is how to get that. Because we've never sold it before. I've never sold it before, and now I'm selling it. Well, I'm not. Sean's selling it. It's something we're using in our marketing, so I decided to put it in the podcast today. Mm-hmm. So that script and that calculator, all that stuff, you can get it now.
Yeah.
In this podcast. It's the only place I have it. I'm not sending emails, nothing. It's in this podcast.
No, it's too valuable to just throw around like that. You and I have been working on that for a year, mostly you, but I've been pinching in every once in a while. It's not just something you dreamed up last week.
No.
This is a big deal. There's a lot behind it.
All right, so let's move on. So, see, here's what happens. Person says they want all cash.
Yeah.
That's their reality, right? That's what they think they want.
Yep.
You need to get them to think differently. Now, I'm not talking about changing their mind. I'm not talking about convincing them. I'm not talking about all the sales techniques that everybody teaches, right? I don't want the seller to think of me and my offers as the same as someone else's. That's what I mean by thinking differently, right? I don't want my offer to be compared to another offer. Like, well, I'll give you $35,000 for the house, and well, somebody else is offering me $38,000. What should I do?
Yeah.
I'll give you $200,000 for the house. Well, somebody else is offering me $205,000. What should I do?
Sure.
Or the other guy's offering me $195,000, but blah blah blah. See, it's too easy to go into a pissing contest.
Yeah. It's like being at an auction. Everything keeps getting bid up till it's not worth it anymore.
Right. So like in this particular case, well, I want all cash, right? Almost 100% of the time, well, not almost, 100% of the time, 100% of the time, a cash deal is the worst deal for the seller ever.
Absolutely.
Right? See, their thinking's not correct. They haven't had somebody come along and do what we were talking about in the beginning of the podcast and explain the details. Right? Let me show you what I mean. There's a word in the English language that's called arbitrage. In the stock market, this term means that you buy low and sell high with certainty. This word arbitrage is where I came up with the idea. Well, if you know how much you can sell a house for, it's easy to negotiate how much you should pay.
Right.
Right? So if you know that the house across the street sold for $150,000 and the one down the street sold for $149,000 and the one over there sold for $151,000, you're certain that you can get $150,000 for this house. So now when you're negotiating with the seller, you don't need a bunch of tricks or anything like that. You're like, well, I can only give you $125,000 or whatever your number is, because I can give you $145,000 because I want to make $5,000. Whatever it may be, you have certainty. Right? So this word arbitrage, what they do is they buy in one market and sell in another market with certainty. So they'll buy in one market, like say they buy in one exchange and then sell on a different exchange.
So what does that actually mean? I know sometimes market could be a different location, or sometimes a different time. What would that mean? Like a different exchange? What would that be?
You're talking about in the stock market?
Well, I'm not sure. Whatever your example is.
Yeah, so you would buy in one market and sell in the other. So I'll give you a classic example on real estate. We don't need to talk about stock market because I'm not a stock market guy, other than I just know it exists and I've studied it. And
Yeah.
so in our particular case, for a very long time when COVID hit and we couldn't get in houses or for a while, I know Sean and I were buying off-market leads. In other words, people that were not selling a house. We would call them up. We had virtual assistants, and we'd call them up and say, would you consider? So we would buy an off-market lead, and we would bring it to the market. In other words, I was just using a realtor for a while. I'd buy a market, like the one that comes to my mind is some Asian woman, because she took so much of my time. I think she owed a gambling debt. And I bought her house. I think I bought her house for $200,000. I gave her $100,000 down, and she took a note for another $100,000 for 12 months. I just gave it to my realtor and said I did nothing to it. Just gave it to my realtor, and we made $85,000 like 3 months later, 2.5 months later. So we took it from the off market and we put it to the on market.
Gotcha.
In this particular case, we're going to buy a house in the cash market, and we're going to put it into the terms market. See, like a lot of my deals, if you notice, like for example, we talk about this deal that I have in Clinton, right?
Yeah.
That I bought the house. So what happened, and this was a big realization I had at the Jay Conner event. So what happens is you go in using cash numbers, right? The Ron LeGrand's Mayo formula, right? Which is the pretty house value, in other words, after renovated value. You take the pretty house number times 70% minus repairs, which often is 50 or 55% of its market value.
Right.
Right? So you pay that number. But the thing is when I buy houses, what I've done is I've changed the way I buy my houses, because I buy houses that are dated, but they're functional. Because now I can sell them on handyman specials. See, the kitchen works and the bathroom works. I don't have to renovate it. The only reason why I would renovate it is to bring it into current time, right? To make it look better so I can get more money.
Right.
But what I do is I'll buy that house on Mayo on a cash deal. I'll get a lender that will give me, I have some IRA guys, which is the beauty of using IRA, and I'll take that house and I'll borrow IRA money for, we'll say, 7 years or 10 years. And I'll take it from a cash deal and turn it into a creative deal. Because I'm going to sell it. So say the house, well, the house that I'm talking about was at the time worth $260,000. It's worth $400 now because he's been in there 3 or 4. He's been in there 5 years. So it was at the time worth $260 to $270. I sold it on a handyman special for $240, but I only paid $110 for the house because I used the Mayo formula. So my concern, people say, well, what happens if he damages the house? Well, I have I have to go borrow money to do it, but or my own money, whatever. But my point is that I put it in my numbers already. I paid cash for it, but I sold it to this dude who was a contractor for $240. I gave him $20,000 worth of sweat equity, which, by the way, like I said, that house is worth $400 now, so he's got plenty of equity.
So
right?
that's a different market time wise. Like a few years later, it's a different market. So markets can be locations, can be a few months, a year.
Yeah.
Things change.
Right.
Yeah.
So market is the type. Yeah. Anyways, we'll just leave it at that. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
So that's arbitrage.
I saw it go down these last few years. Sure.
Yeah. So that's kind of like what arbitrage means, right?
Yeah.
See. Let me see here. So I'm talking to the seller differently. So what we've been talking about is you have to do the math for people. That's the preciseness. So it's not like knowing the deal structures and all that. Like, so if you did sell this house for cash, the cost to sell is 12 to 15%. And you just use our script, which you can get in the link today, right?
Yep.
And you say, well, do you know it's going to cost you this much to sell your house for cash? But if you kept it for 3 years, you know that you can get this much money. And you do a comparative analysis, right? So I don't want the seller to think of my offer as anyone else's. See, I just took myself. Nobody else is doing that for them. I took myself right out of the market, right out of the common offers they're getting.
Yeah.
I made it completely different because I built value. Right? So, in essence, if somebody actually calls them back, which is another story, they're not getting good offers. They've decided guys like us want to buy cheap. That's why bandit time stopped. That's why the bandit time stopped working. People stopped calling because they're like, "Oh, those guys are trying to rob my house."
Yeah. Yeah, cash offer, crappy.
Yeah. So their thinking is not correct, right? Does this make sense?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. All right. So
So I thought of something the way you're explaining today. When people say, I want all cash, we're actually saying, sure, I can do that, and I can give you way more cash. Here's how it works. Because it really is more cash, isn't it?
right.
It's a lot more cash. Would you wait 2-3 years for this much cash? Be kind of silly not to.
Okay. So this is all true. So I got off topic here a little bit. So let me get back on my script here. So, by the way, I've done a lot of these deals that we were just talking about. You know, it's not my mainstream, but, you know, markets change, you know. Like right now, the problem with real estate right now, which is, it's not good right now. I want anybody to know if they're struggling with real estate, it's not you. You know, at the time of this podcast. And the reason why is there's not a shortage of real estate. It's not that at all. The realtors want you to think that, but it's not.
It's shortage for them.
No, yeah, it's for them because
For them, yeah, but that doesn't.
The
That's just
problem
their
with
side.
real estate right now is they have a 3% or 4% mortgage, and they're going to they could sell their house and get a bunch of cash, right? The first problem is where do they go? The second problem is they're going to get less house because now the percentage is 7 or 8%. So they're going to have to buy less house to get what they already have now. You know, I mean, if you take that percentage, I did the math one time on the average price of a house in America is $419,000. It would be almost $2,000 a month more money from 3% to 8%.
It makes a big difference when the price of the house is high. But you know what I was thinking the other day? This is nuts. But what if we could show the entire country how to buy the next house by taking over that cheaper mortgage and just taking a small loan for the equity the person should get?
Yeah.
And everybody do that.
Like
we have to
realtor.
teach the entire country how to do that and get people moving in the houses again. Am I right?
Yep.
They don't know how to do that, though. They think they have to sell it, get a new mortgage. But the money is in place already, so why don't they? We should start a new service. How to swap houses. Oh, God.
It's kind of funny you were thinking that because I was thinking the same thing. I was coming home last night and I was listening to the radio, and there was a realtor on there that was like he was posing himself as a realtor, and it's like, getting offers and all that stuff. Why do that? Because we're the only realtor in this area that will just give you an offer. And I thought, well, that's a different angle. You know, instead of being a creative investor, just say, well, I'm a licensed realtor and I'll just give you an offer.
He's offered to actually buy the house themselves?
Yeah, on the radio. We'll give you an offer. We'll buy the house.
Yeah.
All right, I got off topic a bit. I only bring this up because most sellers are suspect you are doing this arbitrage thing, right? Where they have to give you a discount so you can make a profit off of them. They're trying to prevent that.
Right.
Right? Which is how I create value. I actually simply explain Now pay attention, because I've told you this a lot. But now I'm telling you the theory behind it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I always tell my sellers there is no closing cost. And they're suspect of that. Like, okay, this is a scam.
Yeah.
I don't do that. I don't do that. What I do is I say, what if I told you I can get the buyer to pay your closing costs? Would that help you?
Mm-hmm.
That builds value.
Yep.
See, technically, what you're going to do is you're going to tell them, especially on a slot deal, a sandwich lease option transfer, where you're just in it for the profit between the deposit monies, right? Mm-hmm. So if you can tell them, well, I can get the seller to pay for the closing costs.
Oh, the buyer.
I'm sorry, yeah, the buyer to pay for the closing
Mm-hmm.
costs. This is shifting their thinking, you understand? Because nobody talks about that.
Mm-hmm.
And they could say, well, why would the buyer pay for the closing costs? Well, because what I do is I specialize in a rent-to-own aspect, and 80%, if not more, of the country, 80% of the people looking to buy property in this country don't qualify for a bank loan, and they really want a house. So if you're willing to bend a little bit with me and wait a little bit for your money, like if you don't need the money right away, for 2, 3 years, 5 years, I can make you this much money on a $200,000 house, which is how we start the script. They say they want $200,000, which means that at 15% they would get $170,000 in cash, right?
Mm-hmm.
You say to them, well, do you know you would get I'm shortcutting the script, but did you know that you would only get $170,000? No, I didn't know that. I didn't know about those closing. Well, they're there. Just go on Zillow. Zillow even prints them now.
Yeah, they show closing costs, some repair. Here's what it is. They show the number. Yeah.
You see what we're doing? We're shifting the way they think with facts,
Mm-hmm.
right? Very gently in a conversation. It's conversational. Yeah. It's not shoving it down their throat, right? So you say, well, I didn't know that. Okay, well, I can get the buyer to pay you $282. Would you be interested in that without those closing costs? That's $100,000 difference.
Yep.
See how quick you change the perspective? Well, nobody else is talking to them like this.
Right.
You understand? It automatically gets the seller thinking there might be an opportunity here.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And the sense, or they sense value. They're not getting anywhere else.
Yeah.
Who else is talking to them like that? Right? My best offers are the ones that can't be compared to any other offer. I put myself in my own ballpark, in my own league. Right? It's no different than most of the time you skip the awkward explanation of why your offer is so different. You don't have to have that conversation with them. Well, you should go with me because instead of having that propitiation, the word propitiation means give somebody gifts so they like you.
Yeah.
Right? That's what most of our rookies do, is they're trying to give the seller gifts so they can get the deal. Mm-hmm. It's a propitiation style offer. They're trying to bribe the seller with fake value. Right? It's not real value. Right? Which is why I came up with this Grand Slam offer, which, by the way, Grand Slam offer came from Alex Hormozy. I did not make that up. I just put it in real estate. Mm-hmm. Alex Hormozy is a big marketing guy. Mm-hmm. Right? He owned a bunch of gyms, and he's worth buku bucks. He's an intense guy, right?
Yeah.
So as we were just talking about, they're trying to sell the house for $200,000. So the first thing you say to your seller is, "Well, I'll give you $200,000." So that's like, what do you mean? Because nobody's telling them that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're trying to lowball them. They're getting those postcards in the mail. I'll give you 105, guaranteed.
Yeah.
Wow. Real lowball.
but they're hell bent on getting that 200,000 for just cash.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you need to recalibrate them with spewing out an opportunity that's so much value, they would feel foolish not to at least get more information.
Yeah.
So when you say to them, so when they say, well, I'll give you 200,000, and they're like, yeah, but I want all cash. So the response would be, so you're telling me you wouldn't take an offer for 282,000?
Mm-hmm.
What does that do?
Well, after they get over the shock of thinking, what are you talking about?
Right.
That's a really good offer.
So the first thing they're going to do is they're going to think it's a scam.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's not what everyone else is telling them. And it's way different. Right? So I've learned something about this.
Mm-hmm.
I've learned this from my mother. I just spent the weekend with my mother, and I learned this about my mother, who is 80, or she's going to be 81 years old in a month or so.
Uh-huh.
Right? The definition of scam.
Oh.
So I would say if you're above the age of 50, and I'm being very facetious here, but if you're above the age 50, I don't know equals a scam.
I don't know.
So the definition of a scam is, well, I don't know, and it's too good to be true, so it must be a scam.
Yeah. So they don't know how we could do that because they have no reality on it, so it must be wrong.
Right. Which is why we use math to present the details. And in today's link, I give you a calculator that you put 3 numbers in, and it gives you all the math. It's not a calculator; it's an Excel spreadsheet, right? So you're saying you won't take up to 282,000, right? And they're foolish if they at least find out why. They need to find out, is this a scam? Because that's not what everyone else is telling them, right? So you have to get over in your mind that they're going to think that it's a scam. No, just know they're thinking it's a scam.
Yeah.
Right? So now the point of a good offer is for the seller to understand and feel like they understood it. So the value becomes not the 282,000, the value becomes them understanding how you can give them 282,000.
Oh yeah, if they don't understand it, there's no value, the conversation's over. That makes sense.
Okay, so that brings me full circle on the beginning of the podcast. Words are important because it is what causes us to think a certain way. And once we think a certain way, we act a certain way. And that's how we make our decisions, and that's how all the things I talked about in the beginning of the podcast, right? So our thinking, let me see if I can find that. So the way we think is how we have precise analysis. It gives us estimation, prediction, explanation, and decision making because of the way we think. So if you're talking to a seller correctly and you're using your words correctly, right? You'll get the seller to act a certain way. And it's not hypnotism, it's not trick, it's just a plain old simple calculator. You know, it's funny because in this world we have common beliefs. An axiom. What is an axiom? Or a maxim? What are those?
Well, what should I say? An axiom would be an actual real principle of life. It's like a law. It's not an opinion. It's not something you make up. It's like gravity or something. They're factual. A maxim, you could say, is more call it a rule of thumb. Like we notice if this happens, that happens. It may not be completely scientific, but it's a very good point of view to have. Like one in the hand is worth 2 in the bush. You know, it's just like a logical little statement that you can work with at least.
The point is they've been proven And almost, in a lot of cases, like axiom, like gravity, every time it's going to be, you pick something up and let go of it, it's going to drop.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can't appreciate the sunshine until it rains.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Time changes everything.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You're going to get old. You're going to die. You're going to pay taxes. These are all these little things that we have in our society, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're tapping into those belief systems. And they're either working against you or working for you.
I've been thinking along those lines lately that people don't think right. Like they think maybe emotionally. We've said that before. They're thinking based on past experiences, which may not be today. So I think when we're talking to them, we're trying to get them to just to see things clearly,
Okay,
so they can understand.
Good. So you walked right into what I'm trying to say here. So why not use common denominators? Something we all agree on, like gravity. We all agree there's gravity.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
why not in your value building use what we all agree on?
Mm-hmm.
That's math. Math is something that nobody can fight with. Well, 2 + 2 = 4. Do you agree with that?
Mm-hmm.
Right? If you get your seller to see, well, if you put somebody in there and they're paying you monthly payments and you take that monthly payments for usage, you don't give them any rent credits or anything, but just because they used your property for 30 days, they gave you $1,700.
Mm-hmm.
Can you see that even if you took the whole $1,700 and didn't make any cash flow and paid your mortgage and paid your taxes and your insurance,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to have principal reduction on your mortgage.
Yeah.
So that might be $100, it might be $1,000. The point is you just made $100 or $1,000 because the tenants just gave you money to use your house, right?
Yep. He's paying the mortgage.
Yeah, but it's not more. It's more than paying the mortgage. He's giving you a profit. He's paying down the principal.
the
so
principal,
every single month you have another $1,000 worth of profit that you're going to get at a later date.
Yep. Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
No matter what, the government gives you 27 and a half years of depreciation if you don't live in a house. That's 3.64% per year.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what, you're going to go to the tax man and he's going to give that to you if you tell him you're renting a house. Mm-hmm. These are just laws that these are basic things that are just going to happen no matter what. So why not use those to your advantage and explain those to the seller, because they don't know that. They think in general terms. Oh, I'm going to get a tax refund. I'm not worried about a tax refund. Well, wait a minute. You know, what if you went from paying to getting money back? What if you didn't have to pay taxes?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Well, to me, each thing taken separately isn't a huge amount, but there's 4 or 5 different profits or savings in the Grand Slam offer. You put them all together, and now you're talking money.
Right. So what you're talking about is let me just run through them. So you're going to save on the closing cost, which is 12 to 15%. Even if it's 10% on $200,000, is $20,000.
Well, call it a $419,000 house. Do that one.
That's $40,000, right?
Yeah,
So you're going to save them the closing cost. You're going to get the buyer to pay for the closing cost.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because a lot of people ask, well, how are you going to save the closing cost? Because isn't eventually, no, you get the buyer to pay the seller the closing cost. That's the trick, right? How much they make on their monthly cash flow, because let's face it, almost anyone you talk to now at this current time, which is the problem with real estate right now, I want to reiterate that.
Yeah.
They're paying 3 or 4% on their mortgage.
Mm-hmm.
And current value is 7 or 8%.
Yep.
So if they're paying $1,200, that means the new buyer, if they were to purchase it from them, forget about, even if they owed $200,000, it was worth $200,000. Even if the numbers are the same exact numbers, which they aren't because you always have profit in there, A $200,000 house a year ago or 2 years ago, you paid $1,200 for, we'll say. Now that same house is $1,800.
That's right.
Just because of the change in interest. So there's always going to be cash flow right now for the seller.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're not going to go by rentometer. You're going to go by what the buyer is going to pay, because they're going to have to go get a mortgage for that. So you use the mortgage amount for your rent. Because you don't want them to be lower than what their mortgage would be, because they'll never want to cash you out.
Yeah. Why should they get a mortgage and pay more when the rent is less? So the rent or the lease amount has to be
so
equal
you're gonna
or better.
Right. So now you save them on the closing costs. We'll say 10 to 15%. Now you have cash flow. They're all of a sudden now making $500 a month in cash flow, which is $6,000 a year, right? Then you get principal reduction. Right? I mean, I think the cheapest principal reduction I've seen on a $200,000 house is probably $300 or $400. That's the first year. If it's 10 years in, it's $1,000. So you're going to get a principal reduction.
Yep.
So you're going to get them anywhere from $5,000 to $15,000 a year in principal reduction.
That's right.
Right. Then you're going to get them depreciation, which is another 3.64% per year, which ends up being $4,000 or $5,000 on a $200,000 house per year. Right. Then you're going to get appreciation, because what happens is too many people write option agreements and forget about the appreciation. So all I do is at the end, we give the buyer a 12-month window. Say you can pay $200,000 if you go get a mortgage and cash us out right away. If you don't, we're going to raise the price of the house every month 0.25%. That's 0.25% per month is 3% per year.
Yeah.
And the seller is going to get that appreciation. So the seller doesn't have to think, oh, well, if I sell now and they cash me out in 2 years, what if the house is worth $400,000? Well, we included that.
Right. I've been asked that question. He said, oh, no, we took that into consideration. I told them exactly that. So they know they're going to take advantage, they're going to benefit. Like the longer they wait, the more they make, instead of the longer they wait, the less they make. So it's another benefit to them that we're taking that consideration and building it into the deal. So
all we're doing is taking two things. We're taking the time to do the comparative math with the seller so they can see how much they're going to get for cash and how much they're going to get for keeping it. And I got to tell you, when I do this, too often, sellers say to me, well, why would I ever want to sell if I'm making that much money? Right? So you're giving them strong value. You're shifting their thinking.
Yep.
Getting to see the true value of what real estate is. Right? So the reason sellers will sell to you is they think you're giving them a banging deal. Right? They believe they're getting value worth more than anything else that's been given to them.
It's a lot better than those lowball offers they get in the mail and those little crummy postcards.
Suppose I was talking to a seller, and they're an average person, like my daughter. My daughter will take. My daughters, they're just average people, right?
Yep.
And they both have nice jobs and they make pretty good money, right? Her car payment's $500 a month.
You.
Okay? Yeah, I get it, but that's what they do, right? So if I come along and I say to her, I know you're moving, right? Excuse me, right? What if I could make your car payment for you for free every month by renting this property? Right? Now, I'm going to divert for a second. I know we're at the hour, but I want to divert for 1 second. When you show somebody that they can make $100,000 in 3 years, and they say they need $20,000 to go buy a new house. I need the cash to go buy my new house. I need 20 grand.
Right.
I immediately go into, so let me ask you a question. You're going to give up $100,000 so you can get $20,000? Why don't you find another way to get that 20 grand? Or refinance this house, or get a home equity line of credit, or a HELOC, or use a credit card. Because why would you want to give up $80,000 worth of profit just to get that 20 grand? Why would you want to discount the money like that? It immediately handles them. And if they can't do it, they won't do it, then you're done. which some will do that.
Some people already made decisions and made up their mind. They're not listening.
Right. But it will revert a lot of people. Now, think about it. The moment the seller feels that value drops or dips below the cash offer or below what they want to do, they stop talking to you and they ghost you.
Yeah.
So the reason why anybody's ghosting you is because your value was not cranked up enough to keep them interested.
Would you say that's because we may be guessing what they want or just throwing things at them instead of finding out what's important to them for their values?
Absolutely.
So we have to listen for that. That's why we have to listen to the responses, right?
Right. Exactly
Okay.
right.
All right.
So you have to realize that this is very profound what I did today. And I almost didn't do this podcast because I wanted to make sure it was explained correctly. So hopefully if you're listening, give us a thumbs up. A few people have done that already. Give me some feedback on this because this is advanced stuff as far as I'm concerned. It shouldn't be really done on a podcast. This is stuff we do in a coaching group, right? So here's the thing. When you're talking to a seller, they have no clue that it's going to cost them 12 to 15%. I just did a transaction for two friends of mine. So my friends live in the house, have been renting from the girl that owns it for 8 years in Meriden, Connecticut.
Yeah.
The seller lives in LA. They decided to do a transaction. They couldn't. The one was saying, "I can't buy the house. She wants too much money." First thing I did was talk to both of them to find out there was a gap in the communication. They didn't understand one another.
Well, that's sad to hear.
Anyways, especially because they're both trained in communication. So I put the deal together, and I told the seller, "You're going to pay between 3 and 5% for closing costs. It'll be closer to 3%."
Yeah.
Now, I didn't tell anybody what I was doing. I just was persistent on how I wrote the deal. I had the purchase and sales contract written 3 times to make sure it was done correctly. Here's the reason why. My buyer came to the table. Now, this is a conventional loan. This was with mortgages and all that stuff. My buyer came to the table with, at the closing table, here's what he paid. You ready? $3.54.
I'm sorry.
Okay? Because of the way I structured the deal. Worst part of it is so that happens on Friday. On Monday, I'm getting texts from the seller like, "I thought you said, why are they charging me this and why are they charging me that?" Right? It was all the concessions I put in the deal.
Yeah.
And I answered her with one sentence.
Yeah.
That's the reason why I elevated the price of the house. So she was only looking at the negatives. Why did I get an $8,000 charge? And why did I get this? This adds up to more. Well, what was the net check? She wanted $150,000. She got $164,000. And she's bitching at me because she saw just the credits. She saw the $8,000. She saw this. But she wanted $150,000 and I got her $164,000.
That's why we say you have to look at all the numbers, do all the math, not the little pieces, and see the bottom line. 164 instead of 150. Yeah.
So I got
all the math.
I got the buyer. He was expecting to put down $5,000 or $10,000, $3.54.
That's nuts.
And I got the seller.
Gee, Bill, you're so close to zero. You couldn't get him to zero.
I tried.
Hey, Bill, did you put the 354 in yourself?
All my point is to end off is that people don't pay attention to the right things. She just saw all the negative on the on the settlement statement. She didn't take, and she immediately apologized. "Oh my God, you're right."
Yeah.
I know I'm right. So
Nice.
Here's the deal. Building value, doing deals, making offers and doing deals is the oxygen of your business and your freedom. The value to you, just as we talked about, is the time. It's not the money. So what you need to do is build your portfolio, money monthly, money now, money monthly, money later. Doing that enough times. The definition of success is do more of the right things than the wrong things. And then soon, one day, not very long down the road, a year or two down the road, especially if you're doing subject to deals, you wake up and think, you don't have to work as hard.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You're making offers this way to allow you to do things that no one else is doing. You're separated from everybody else. You're making you valuable, unique, and very compelling to sellers. Why did those my two friends, come to me to do the transaction? Did I build value? No, I didn't charge them anything. I mean, I'll probably get a dinner and a cigar out of it, that's if I ask for it, which I probably won't. Right? Why did I do it? Because I could.
Yeah.
They were friends. Right? It's just building value. But the point is they know that I can do that. So they came to me because I'm the only one. They didn't go to a realtor. Mm-hmm. They spoke to the realtor and they came to me. And I'm not bragging about I'm just saying you can do this same thing in your area.
Mm-hmm.
You can build this same type of reputation by doing what I'm talking about today. Right? The power of value unleashes unlimited deals to scale your creative real estate profits. And if you're not doing that, then my latest saying in my emails is, here's what you are. In today's economy, here's what you are. You ever hear about the hamster on the wheel?
Oh, yes.
You're the hamster on the wheel?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the hamster's dead.
Oh, Jesus. Did he die from exhaustion on the wheel?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
That's
brutal.
If you're not doing the things we're talking about today, you're a dead hamster.
Ouch. That's really bad.
BC, Peter. BC. Before
What?
COVID.
Yeah.
It was different than AC, after COVID.
I'm not even going to ask.
AC after COVID, it has changed. All the rules, which is why I started the podcast, there are no rules.
Eek.
Because the norm, like the realtor system, is blown up. They're out of business. They don't even know it.
Yeah.
Okay. So make sure you, thank you for spending time with me today, or with Peter and I today. Thank you for hearing me out and all your support. So make sure you subscribe to wherever you're watching us or listening to us. Make sure you like us, leave some comments. If you need any help, go to flippinghouses4rookies.com. There's a bunch of free stuff there, and there's a support link, and there is a link in the description that I think you should go check out because it is the Grand Slam offer. It's the scripts, the calculators, how to use it, everything. And if you're not doing that these days, I feel like you're being left behind. Okay? So over and out. We will talk to you on podcast number
380, Bill.
380. 380.
Got to be 380. Nice round number.
Yep. All right. Flourish and prosper. Over and out.
Thanks for tuning in to the hottest real estate topics on the planet with Bill and Pete. If you want to continue learning how to buy and sell real estate without money or credit, head over to flippinghouses.club for some cutting-edge real estate wealth tools. Or contact us at info@flippinghouses.club.